I think we're live.
We are live.
Yay!
I noticed I say that before every single book chat. I'm like, we're live!
Mm-hmm. But I appreciate it because there'll be one day that I'm going to be like yakking away and they'll be like, we're not there yet. All right, welcome back to Book Chats with Mostly Books. We are Jody and
Jen.
And tonight we are discussing The Empress of Salt and Fortune by Nghi Vo. Vo, thank you.
Yep.
Nghi Vo, I apologize. And it's our first short story.
It's a novella.
Yeah, what did you think of that?
I liked it because short stories you usually get them in a collection, so then it ends up being regular novel length. But this one, it was shorter, and so it does different things with its structure and how it builds its world, tells its story, and I thought that was a nice change.
Mm-hmm. I have mixed feelings on short stories. I appreciate how much work goes into it because I think a lot of people underestimate the amount of work this is. You put just as much blood, sweat, and tears into this as you would a normal novel.
But you just don't have the space to do all of that, yeah.
And in some ways, I almost think we should give more credit to short story authors because every word has to count. You can't have any fluff in these ones.
Yeah.
And I think that's a whole talent on its own. So whereas I appreciate the short story structure or idea, I often find myself wanting more from the book. So as a reader, I tend to just be a little like bummed out when it's done.
It's not your format of choice.
Right.
Yeah.
Not to say I haven't read some phenomenal ones and not to say I won't continue to read them, but yes, not normally my first choice. Okay, do you want to tell us a short synopsis before we go further?
Yeah, so Chi is a cleric from the Singing Hills, and they're like a convent that catalogs history of various places for like every place, I think. So they go to this house by the lake, Thriving Fortune, that's the house's name, and they meet Rabbit, and they're there to catalog the objects left by the dead Empress. Who is our Empress of Salt and Fortune. So while Chi is there, Rabbit is telling the stories from the Empress's life because Rabbit was her handmaiden. And then that's our story. I feel like we'll talk about, I don't want to say the end because it's a little spoilery.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's basically just talks about mostly the Empress exile. And what happened, and then what the outcome of that was.
Yeah, there's a lot. It sounds very simple. It is a book of storytelling, but there's lots of plots that they talk about.
Yeah, there are like off-scene discussed. Yeah. Yes. What did you think of the storytelling approach?
I like it because it gets at this idea of memory and like who's remembered, how are you remembered, and I really like that as a thematic thread in books. And I think like books about storytelling or books about books get very like interesting and a bit meta.
Yeah.
So I like storytelling as a theme.
I thought that was an appropriate choice for this. I'm not sure how she would have done this without it being a storytelling. Now, I'm sure I would say that if she did it a totally different way, like I don't know how she did this way.
But then if she had done it, you'd be like, oh,
right?
I don't know how this would have worked otherwise.
Exactly. So I really liked it for this, and I thought that was a great way to get to know this Empress and to see, because it's a long span of time, but again, in a very short amount of pages.
Yeah.
So I thought she was able to cover a lot of ground by doing storytelling.
The whole book is less than 120 pages.
Yeah.
But they're small pages, as you can see.
Yeah. Yeah. There's really not a lot of text on there.
Yeah.
You talk about memory. Do you think you can trust Rabbit's memory?
Well, sort of. At times, yes. So, like, through most of it, I did trust Rabbit as our narrator, or else, because you have to buy into it a little bit to like, go along with it, or you just defeat the point of you reading this book.
Yeah.
There is a scene where Rabbit does something that's like, oh, why are you doing that? What are you hiding? But it doesn't feel in like a malicious way to like deceive the reader. Right. And it doesn't feel like on the level of the book trying to trick you.
Right. Now, I wasn't trying to like set you up like, do you think this was an unreliable? It was more like I hadn't thought about the memory part, and that sometimes what you remember is not necessarily the truth. So this was definitely, to me,
or
the
it's
memory.
Not fact. It's still true, but it's not fact.
At least true to that person.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. I feel that this was her memory to the best of her abilities.
Like, she is trying to be honest with you.
Yeah. And she does want to tell the story of her Empress.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think of the structure of the book?
In the sense of...
how we get, like, this plot of Rabbit and Chi telling stories, and then we get this inner plot of the Empress and Rabbit's life.
I liked it. I liked that at times we were in the present, and they were talking about games they played growing up. But then I also liked how then that played back into the Empress storyline.
Yeah.
I liked both of them running kind of parallel to each other.
I did too.
Yeah.
it's there's a lot of layers in how this is written. And so the whole book is a frame narrative. So we have this outer frame with Rabbit and Chi, and then the inner frame of Rabbit and the Empress. But then each chapter is also a frame narrative. So we have this starting out, Rabbit, Chi finds something in the house to catalog, and then Rabbit comes and, like, tells a story about that object, and then it ends with Chi again in the present, and then we do that each chapter. So it's a lot like little units and that make up this bigger narrative.
And truly, until we started talking about this, I hadn't even really looked at it that way. Like, yes, absolutely, you're totally right. But for some reason, I never had really consciously thought how many layers this was until you started, like, just now saying all that. I'm like, wow, there were a lot of layers. It was very seamless, so I never really felt like I was lost or trapped in one more than the other or anything.
Yeah, it is seamless. It feels very fluid how the writing moves between each and how the voices still feel consistent.
I will say I didn't initially get in the beginning of each chapter when she does the little blurb on what she's categorizing within the house. I didn't really get what she was or what they were doing. Yeah. I apologize. Our main character is non-binary, so I apologize. I should say they. And I didn't get what they were doing until like halfway through, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, she's cataloging the house. They're cataloging the house."
You keep mistaking them for she because Rabbit first mistakes Chi as she, and then then she corrects herself. So
yes, that is very true. So I liked all of that part.
Yeah, I didn't get it on the first one because I thought I was like, this is like a poem or something because like I've seen books do that. Yeah, and then I got it as we went along because there's something that's I think it's the second or third one. It reads very much more like an object than a poem.
Yeah, chapter 3 was when I started to be like, wait, what? What are we doing here?
Cup. Polished mahogany inlaid with silver. And I'm like, okay, this is a description of an object, not a poem.
Right, because chapter 2, when she did the robe, the silk thread, I thought maybe it was a poem. Yeah. Exactly, that was exactly what I thought.
It sounded more poetic, which I was also down for if we were going to get poems.
What did you think of the beginning where Chi is walking along to the Thriving Fortune Palace, and Chi is going at night, and then sees the ghost road?
I thought the ghost road was really cool. It kind of reminded me of the Black Road in Gods of Jade and Shadow.
Yes.
And I was like, I'm here for this. It's a different mythology system.
Yes.
But I thought it was really interesting, and I was also confused because I was like, it sounded like this was our Empress, so like our title character. But I'm like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, I thought so too, and I was like, well, this is a kind of an unusual beginning to the story
because it just throws you right into it, and like you work it out like within a couple chapters.
I was like, are we going to be talking to ghosts the entire time? I really wasn't sure where we were headed initially, but I liked it. I liked the spooky feeling of it, and then it really presented the lake really kind of nicely because the lake was its own, almost its own character in the sense that it turns red at night, and it has a whole like urban legend around it.
Yeah, it's like people are superstitious about it, and like some people don't like it, some people do.
And it seemed like a lot of people were kind of nervous around it.
But it also, I thought, it's an interesting way to introduce our title character because we get this kind of like otherworldly, creepy, spooky idea of the Empress, and then we get a very different image of her when Rabbit starts talking about her. So, and then we have to kind of, like, put them together.
Yeah, and I initially wasn't sure what kind of Empress she was going to be. So that was, like, a really fun setup. the journey we went on.
What do you think of Chi as like our how we're getting this story? Because as in like our perspective character, our point of view character.
Well, they are very because they're there to get the history. Mm-hmm. So there's not a lot of emotion or opinion. So I felt like it was fine, except I also sort of felt indifferent because they don't have a lot of personality. Because
this sounds a little mean, but they're not the character we're meant to be caring about, really.
They're really just there to hear the story.
Yeah.
I felt like.
They're like a less personal Nick Carraway.
Yeah. That's so...
Who maybe makes better decisions.
So on the point right there, on the nose. Yeah, but again, I didn't then feel like their judgment was clouding the story either.
Yeah. Because
it was just so matter of fact. It was more Rabbit's judgment that might have clouded it.
Yeah. And I guess we haven't really done like big spoilers yet. This might be one, so forewarned. But at the end of the chapters when Rabbit would ask, like, do you understand? Like, or do you get it? And she's like, sometimes like, I think I understand, or yes, but keep talking.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting because we're going through this with them but they're not our protagonist in a way.
No, you're right. They're the Nick Carraway. Mm-hmm. And do you think they understood more and they just were trying to get Rabbit to talk? I don't know that Rabbit needed help talking, but
yeah, I don't know. I think I could go either way. I think it depends on like what kind of opinion you want to have of Chi and like their knowledge gathering order. Because then it's like who writes history, who records history. That depends
on the winner.
on the winner, on who has power, who doesn't have power. That's a whole thing.
What did you think about the convent being non-binary?
I thought it was that it's focused on like the knowledge, so it's not so much about individual identity, and that it's an interesting bit of world building.
Yeah, it was definitely different. I just wanted to know how they determined who was in the convent. Did they choose themselves to go in? Did their family put them in?
Was it both? Or
yeah, I just want to know how they felt about it. And I mean, obviously we can't because they have no individuality, they have no opinions on that.
And they're like not big on telling us.
Yeah, at least that's the impression we get from Chi. Maybe others in the convent are different. I don't know. I didn't meet anyone else.
Yeah. Their bird has more personality. The birds were cool.
I liked the birds. I really liked the birds. Yeah, and I think that in some ways was the most magical part of this. My biggest gripe was there's not enough magic.
So we talk about the birds and then how there's not enough magic?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so Chi has this like animal companion, almost brilliant. It's like a Naishin? I don't remember exactly how.
Oh, yeah.
Like what the species is called.
I don't remember what the species was called, but they were very interesting, so keep going.
Yeah. So they go around with each of the clerics, which Chi is a cleric, and they have like an eidetic memory, so they can record everything and then like say it back, and then the clerics will write it down or record it or whatever they do. And Almost Brilliant's kind of sassy and like is the bigger personality of the two.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting that Almost Brilliant was like initially saved.
Yeah.
Like her I'm not sure how the bird identifies.
Yeah, me neither.
But anyway, Almost Brilliant's lineage was almost destroyed, but then they were kind of like smuggled away.
Yeah.
So that these recording birds could still exist.
So we almost know more about Almost Brilliant
really do.
Than Chi.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Chi's backstory at all, I don't think. Do you?
I can't remember because when I was like, wait, there's a section about childhood, but that's Rabbit talking about her childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chi mentioned, or Rabbit's like, have you played this game before? And she's like, oh yeah, I was in.
But she did it at the convent, the song of
Singing Hills.
Singing Hills place.
Yeah, so we don't get a lot of backstory, which I think it's very interesting that we have this point of view character who's a blank slate.
Yeah. really, they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I did like the birds. The birds are fun.
The birds are fun. You had something to say about the magic or the lack thereof.
I just didn't think there was much. Okay, so we had spoilers from here.
More spoilers.
Right? I don't think yours was terrible. Spoiler. We had the one husband's lady turned into a
Kingfisher.
It's
type of bird.
Mm-hmm. What else happened magically?
There's the weather mage. The weather
yes.
mage is it. So it's kind of does like the Game of Thrones thing where it's like summer forever and ever.
That's right.
What other magic? Well, talking birds. Rabbit turns
the ghost road, but
ghost
depends on how you feel about ghosts.
Yeah, and how Rabbit turns into a something at the end.
I liked that. We'll come back to that. But yes, but no. Like it felt more like the soul was just released. Anyway, I'm not sure on that either.
Okay.
But there wasn't a lot, and so as a fantasy novel, I guess I wanted more magic. And I know not every fantasy novel is high fantasy or anything like that. But a little bit more would have been good. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So do you want to talk about the Empress?
Yeah, we should talk about the Empress. We should talk about our title character.
What did you think of the Empress?
I liked her.
I did too.
I thought she's I like how she's written and like how we're finding out about her. Because we see a lot of like her actions and then we have to infer a lot. Okay, that's another thing stylistically that I liked about the novel. That it left a lot of gaps. And you had to like fill in the gaps with your own understanding or if like how you felt emotionally about it would be the answer to whatever's going on.
Which I think goes back to Rabbit's question. Are you understanding?
Yeah. And maybe goes back to like why this is so short and how concise it is.
Yeah. It's quite concise. But I felt like every word was important. So again, I enjoyed that part. I really liked the Empress. I liked that tragic, banished character who comes back with a vengeance.
Yeah.
You can't fool me. Like, they...
And it had some court drama.
It did have court drama. But, I mean, they've shunned this girl who produces the heir and therefore is no longer of value.
Well, then they sterilize her.
Yeah. I mean, it was all horrible. She almost died from that. And then they take her off to this lake house and think, oh, she's fine. Almost kind of like,
They leave her there for like 6 years at least.
And I don't think they realized how smart she was.
Yeah.
Because she's a northerner.
You got a little bit of like fantasy racism in there.
Yeah, you got some of that. Her and her mammoths are going to take over. Watch out. So I really liked her story and her cleverness to use the fortune tellers as her...
That was so clever.
Her way to go back home and communicate.
Yeah. Because then I like the part when they were talking about like the characters that are written on the fortune telling sticks.
Oh, and the way they had to translate everything.
Yeah, and they're like, wait, she's like, this doesn't make sense, but then it's because they're in a dialect and then translated, which was I thought was
so
super
clever.
Cool. Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
And I mean, so she was only there so it only took her 6 years before she overthrew.
I think so. I think there was something there that. Like Empresses have been exiled here before, and it said something about that. Like this was a 6-year banishment, and then they come back.
Which I was kind of curious about the other Empresses because there were multiple wives. So how did you get to be a wife that stayed?
In general, or as the Empress got to be a wife that stayed?
How did you get to be a wife that stayed Empress? Yes. Like, because, like, it seemed like many of them were considered an empress, and he had many wives that were empresses.
Oh, they were, what were they called? Something with an A. I don't remember what they were called.
Because the one was, like, talking down to her as if she was a lonely, I thought they said lowly empress, but she was a lowly, anyway.
Yeah.
I wanted more in the court drama on that part, the political part of that.
I don't know. I'm not going to be able to find it.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to know what made them special to stay. And maybe it was, again, they weren't northerners.
Or maybe, yeah. Or, like, they get sent away for, like, a year, and then they go back.
Some
of them, yeah. The young ones.
the one gal that had been there for years who was talking down to her. I mean, how'd she stay for years? Again, my guess is that they weren't northerners.
Charisma.
Yeah, I felt like it was some of that kind of... we're only doing this to keep the peace, and now that we
Yeah.
have the heir, that's all we needed.
That's true. And they do that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty, sadly, was common practice in that kind
Yeah.
of world. Anyway, what other characters do you want to talk about?
We haven't talked about Rabbit.
You want to talk about Rabbit?
We should talk about Rabbit. And this also, like, kind of ties into, like, what I liked about the Empress, and that how she treated people. Like, people... Well, not... Like, she's not always nice. Like, the Minister of the Left kind of deserves it. He's, like, their spy master for the Emperor.
Even still, I thought the Empress was actually quite kind.
Yeah.
She passed off the punishment to Rabbit.
Yeah. And, like, she has to make hard choices in the book, like, with Sukai.
Mm-hmm.
And she basically sacrifices him and, like, knows what it will do to Rabbit.
We should note that Sukai was one of her fortune tellers, and Rabbit's significant other.
Yes.
Who is then brutally murdered.
Yeah. And when that when he's like sent away, the minister's like, "Oh, let me borrow your fortune teller," and like,
we see you like this dude. Let's borrow him.
Everyone understands that, like, if he leaves, he's never coming back. Mm-hmm. But the Empress,
his head came back.
Yeah, in the worst way, in a box.
In a box. Yeah, that's terrible.
But I like that the Empress, or Inyo, she has a name, didn't try to, like, downplay it or try to be like, oh, I didn't know you felt that way about him. Or it was very much like owning up to, like, yes, I made this choice. I would have had to lose something more if I didn't. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, like...
You know, I felt Rabbit kind of understood that, though, weirdly. And I mean, I think she hoped...
They've been together for a while.
For the best, but knew that that wasn't exactly likely.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think she ever blamed Inyo for that. I mean, yes, she made that hard decision, but what choice did she have?
Yeah, so I liked that understanding between them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really liked their relationship, especially considering it was the different stations.
Yeah.
They were very much a tight unit.
Yeah.
Of confidants.
And you didn't feel like one was using the other.
No, I didn't feel that. You're right.
So it felt equal, even though on paper it's very not equal.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we see that many times where they confer with each other before they make decisions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go to the end?
Yeah.
All right, what do you think?
Of the end in the sense... Okay, so, well, are we talking about the end for Inyo or the end for... the very, very end for Rabbit?
Let's talk about the end for Inyo first.
Okay, I loved it. I love that she took over. I loved that she gave Rabbit the decision to decide what to do to the person who killed her significant other. And I really like that she also gave her the option of what do you want to do for your child.
Yeah, I really like that too.
And I thought that was amazing that she basically took her as her own. And now that Rabbit's daughter is the next Empress in line.
Yeah, I'm going to find her name because I really liked her name.
I thought that was amazing. So well done.
It was so well. It was so satisfying. And it, like,
so satisfying.
It paints you an image of Inyo walking into the capital with her army with a baby in her arms.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's really good.
Yeah. And she takes over and rules for a really long time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it?
You looking for the daughter's name?
Yeah. Because I found them.
While you're doing that, I will also say that I really liked Rabbit's ending because she gets reunited with Sukai.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. Like, it felt to me like her spirit joined his spirit. Not that but there's no body, so I guess that could be your other magical element. But they basically fly off into the sky.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Because she has a dream.
Yeah.
And so she sees this in her dream, and Dream Rabbit is like, oh, I hope she locks the doors after I leave. And then...
That was so funny.
And then she wakes up, and Rabbit's nowhere to be found. Literally anywhere.
Literally nowhere to be found, yeah. And so, yeah, I liked that. Well, I'll just assume she locks the place up when they leave. Oh, man. So I liked that. And I also liked that he was like, are you ready? Is it time for you to come join me now? And
Yeah.
she's like, I think so.
Like,
I think I've done my part.
I've told
Do
my
you
story.
also want to talk about the part that Rabbit was like, you have to hang on, I'm not sure if I'm ready to tell this?
Oh,
was that the part that
interesting.
you were like, she made some interesting decisions that maybe would have changed the narrative?
Yeah. Oh, I can't find it.
Oh, it's all right.
Oh, her
Read the
daughter's
book and
name
you
is
can catch
like,
the daughter's name.
It's really good.
We'll put it in the comments.
Yeah, we'll put it in the comments. But yeah, so she like sees Rabbit coming back from somewhere. She like left the house, and there's like, she said ink on her fingers and dirt on her clothes, and finds out that like Rabbit buried some part of the story, and she's like, I'm not ready to tell this, or like my loyalty's to the dead, but the dead don't think much of it.
Right.
And she was then like, but you can't hide this. Like, my whole purpose here is to record history.
Right.
And then Rabbit's like, okay, I will collect my thoughts tonight and then I'll tell you tomorrow. And then I just figured she told her tomorrow.
I think she did as well, but I kind of thought that was an interesting little tidbit in the sense that Rabbit was very much trying to shape the narrative she told Chi, which is sort of interesting, but then again, it goes back to that who writes the history.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, whatever, I just need the facts.
Yeah, it's just like, you don't hide it from me.
Right. And they made a point of also saying, you know, we'll write down what you have now, and we may revisit this in 5 years to find out what really happened, but we need to know right now, kind of thing.
Yeah, there's that of whole, like, the clerics are writing down history, but they're not always understanding what they're writing down. They're recording it for posterity.
Right. And it may be something that comes up again and be more elaborated on later on.
Yeah.
But then I was like, I wonder what else you've changed just slightly. Or painted in a softer light.
Yeah. I have never thought about the Empress, to going back, that, like, we talk about strong female characters a lot. I don't like using that phrase anymore just because it's been, like, so warped.
Overdone, yeah.
Yeah, and that usually means, like, a female character whose strength is, like, typically male traits.
Yep.
And that, like, they punch everything, they get angry, they don't do needlepoint.
Right.
But this image of Inyo, like, holding a baby and, like, walking in front of an army, it's just like the best of both. And that we see her, like, she's ruthless.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, makes these very, like, cold decisions that she has to make, but then she'll also laugh and play games.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's a lot. She felt well-rounded and, like, well fleshed out.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I loved the visual, like you said, with her coming in with the army. And, I mean, she has mammoths with her.
Yeah, and it was like a bloodless
her,
rebellion, too.
like, transportation, too. Like,
she'd, like, consolidated so much power that
yeah, she just walked in.
Yeah, just, like, walked in.
I know. That's why I'm saying it was such a well-done revenge. And
it was so good. It was so satisfying, too.
And how many male, like, overthrowers have done it without shedding blood?
Well, there's a historical, like, bloodless revolution.
Which one?
The Glorious Revolution.
I don't know the
in England. It was 1688, I think.
I feel like I need to go learn more about this.
I think it was they got rid of, like, the Stuarts. Yeah, I think they kicked out the Stuarts and then brought in, like, William of Orange.
Crazy Irish Stuarts.
Yeah, from the Netherlands.
Interesting.
Netherlands, and it was a bloodless revolution.
And who led it? Just the common man?
I'm
really putting her on the spot here. I clearly need some history lessons.
I don't know. I know William of Orange was the guy they brought in to
take over?
Yeah. And be king.
Okay, so there's one.
That's the only one I know of.
Okay, there may be others, but still.
Because it's called Glorious.
Going back to your comment on her strength.
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty amazing. Mm-hmm. Like, hello, I didn't have to do this without killing everyone.
Yeah.
What'd you do today?
That's a flex.
Right? Can we talk about the cover?
Yeah.
I mean, or first off, do you want to talk about anything else with the ending?
It is a standalone, but there's another one in this world, another novella. Comes out in December. I do want to read it.
And she will be...
She's our point of view character again.
Only it's going to be a tiger this time.
Yeah.
Sounds interesting.
I did like the ending. It wrapped up well. Like, you get this story, you get the story of these lives. And
I really felt like I got the history of Inyo and her.
It was satisfying. It was very like melancholic and almost nostalgic,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a nice read.
It felt very nostalgic. It felt like Rabbit needed to unburden herself and to see that her Empress was put in the best light possible.
It felt kind of healing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree.
I liked it.
So, I really like the cover, except that I'm still confused on one part. So this is the cover, and we have our rabbit in the center, who's sitting on the mammoth, and then we have our, that one, bird, it's almost brilliant, which is what we think a hoopoe bird.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure what this one is. We're debating if it's a dragon or a lion.
I thought it was a sloth at first, but that has no relevance to the text.
There's no sloth. I'm getting there. So tell us what you guys think in the comments, because we want to know. I think it's a dragon because of the eye.
I think it's a tiger because, or not tiger.
Lion.
You know, the other one. A lion because there's like fur and claws and teeth and...
It does look pretty furry. I totally get that. And that claw is not a dragon. I mean, it's kind of a dragon claw, but it's not really a dragon claw.
A furry dragon would terrify me.
I'm not really sure. I don't know if it's... I don't know. Let us know. And do you have any parting thoughts on this before we go on to what's next week?
I really did. I liked it. I really liked it. I think, and it's a bit more, like, if, I don't agree with this opinion, but that like, fantasy is, or, like, looking down on genre fiction, like, that could just be not your style, that's fine, but sometimes it feels like, oh, it's genre fiction, and, like, your nose gets turned up a little. But this one felt very literary, and like how the reader has to interact with it and fill in the gaps in the style. And it was just, it's fun to read once in a while. And I didn't know that going into it, so it was a nice surprise.
It was different than I anticipated. I did like the writing. I liked it. I didn't love this one. In some ways, again, I think it's partly just the short story. I want more.
Yeah.
I want to also connect more with my characters, and I didn't feel like I connected with Chi. Which I don't think you're supposed to.
Yeah.
I get that. And I liked Rabbit, but I still felt like everything just had such a distance. And I think part of it was the storytelling approach. You just felt very distant from all the characters.
And they're even distant from what they're telling you.
Yeah, so I would have liked a little less distance. I like to know the characters' thoughts and feelings.
I like that it was inspired, or reminiscent of Imperial China.
I liked that. Cool. I thought that part was really cool as well. I just want more character connectedness.
Yeah. Which is valid.
But that's just a personal preference. I actually will probably read the second novella as well come December.
It sounds good. And I like the world. And like how the first one ends, it sets up well for like exploring other parts of the world.
Right. And there's so much history here that, I mean, she's going to be busy for a while.
Yeah.
And do you want to show us what we're reading for next week?
Yes. Next week, we are reading The Bone Witch. I always put it in front of my face. We're reading The Bone Witch by Rin Chupeco.
Yeah.
And it's got witch in the title.
It was pretty much the hard sell right there, right? Not even a hard sell. That was the sell.
Part 2 of the sell is necromancy.
Yes. And elemental magic.
Yes.
Which is my personal favorite of magic styles, but I'm not sure what your personal favorite magical style is. Do you have a favorite?
I don't know. One that reads well and is written well, I guess.
So it's more about the world.
Kind of. It's like I like how magic interacts in the world, because... Yeah.
That's fair.
Shades of Magic has maybe one of my favorite magic systems.
That one was a cool system.
That's a good one. Also elemental.
Yeah. Well, see, that's typically my choice.
Harry Potter isn't an elemental magic system, and it works.
Which one?
Harry Potter.
Yeah. I know. I like elemental.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Isn't elemental what you said?
It's not.
I was like, wait, it's not. It's all words. I had to really think about that weirdly. It's late Friday night, I guess. This, 5:30? Anyway.
So this one was adult fantasy and a novella. We're going to YA and a full novel and start of a series, so not necessarily a standalone.
I can't remember. I think it's a trilogy. Is it a trilogy? Do you remember?
I'm not sure.
Well, we'll find that out too for you guys next week.
It just says a new fantasy series.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited for it. It's very much a Jodie book. So, and Jodie picked it, so what'd you expect?
And this is very much a Jen pick.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, tune in with us next Friday, and you will see what we thought about the Bone Witch.
And we'll put the daughter's name in the comments. Also, let us know if that's a lion or a dragon, or if...
And we'll also put the birds, the history, or the birds'
Their
species name.
Yeah. It'll be fun.
Yeah. So check back. Yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye.